of demon Putna. As Nand Maharaj was returning home, he very carefully thought about what Vasudeva had said. Believing that his words could never be without value, thus being convinced that some danger must be at hand, Nand Maharaj became afraid for his son, and so he took shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord for protection. At this time the fierce Rakshasi, Putna, who had been offered by Kansa to kill babies, was wandering throughout the town and villages, doing her nefarious duty. One day Putna, who could move according to her will even in outer space, utilized her mystic power to transform her body into that of a very beautiful woman and then entered Gokul. Putna's hips were full and her breasts were large and firm, seeming to burden her thin waist. She was dressed very nicely, and her hair, which was adorned with a garland of malika flowers, was scattered about her beautiful face. She smiled very attractively while glancing upon everyone, and indeed her beauty drew the attention of all of the inhabitants of Vraj, especially the men. When the gopis saw her, they thought that the goddess of fortune had personally come there, holding a lotus flower in her hand, to see her husband Krishna. While thus searching for small children, Putna entered Nand Maharaj's house unobstructed under the influence of the Lord's superior potency. Without asking permission, she entered Nand Maharaj's room, where she saw baby Krishna sleeping on a bed. His unlimited prowess covered like a fire covered by ashes. She could nonetheless understand that the child was not ordinary, but was meant to kill all of the demons that are always busy creating disturbances. Lord Krishna could understand that the Putna had come to kill him. Just to reassure her, Krishna pretended to be afraid of her, and so he closed his eyes. Putna picked up the baby and placed him upon her lap, just as a foolish person might pick up a sleeping snake, thinking it to be a rope. Putna's heart was fierce and cruel, but she looked and acted just like an affectionate mother. In this way, she resembled a sharp sword in a soft sheath. Being captivated by Putna's beauty, Yashoda and Rohini did not try to stop her, but simply remained silent. Putna pushed her breast into Krishna's mouth. Her nipple was smeared with a strong poison that was immediately effective, and Krishna became very angry with her because she had killed so many small children in Brajbhumi. Taking hold of Putna's breast, Krishna squeezed it very tightly with both hands and then sucked out both the poison and her life. Feeling excruciating pain, Putna cried out, "Please leave me, suck my breast no longer." Her eyes were wide open and she was perspiring profusely, while her arms and legs flailed about. Indeed, as Putna screamed loudly, the earth with all its mountains, as well as outer space with its planets, and the lower planets as well trembled. People were seen falling down, fearing that thunderbolts were going to strike them. In this way, Putna lost her life. Her mouth open and her hair, arms, and legs spread. She fell down in the pasturing ground in her original form as Rakshasi. Putna's gigantic body smashed all of the trees for 12 miles. Her sharp teeth each resembled the front of a pillow. Her nostrils were deep like mountain caves, and her breasts were like big slabs of stone fallen from a hill. Her scattered hair was the color of copper. The sockets of her eyes were like blind wells, and her fearful thighs resembled the bank of a river. Her arms and legs were like huge bridges, and her abdomen like a dried up lake. The heart, ears, and heads of the cowherd men and women were already shocked by Rakshasi's screaming, and when they saw the fierce wonder of her body, they became even more alarmed. Without fear, child Krishna was playing on the upper portion of Putna's breast. And when the gopis saw this, they quickly came and picked him up, overjoyed that he was safe and sound. Although Putna could expand her size to become greatly powerful, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is all powerful in any form, even that of a small baby. Thereafter, Mother Yashoda and Rohini, along with other elderly gopis, waved a cow's tail to give protection to the child Sri Krishna. They thoroughly washed Krishna with cow urine and then smeared him with the dust raised by the movement of cows. Then 12 names of Lord were applied to different parts of his body with cow dung, beginning from the forehead. In this way, the child was given protection. The gopis then executed the process of Achaman by slipping water from the right hand and chanting the Nyas mantra, applying it to their bodies and the bodies of child Krishna for purification. The mantras chanted by gopis consist of many names of Lord Vishnu, each chanted along with some part of the body or some activity one may be engaged in. Lord Krishna is one, but he has different names and forms with which to act differently. But if one can not remember all of the names, one may simply chant Lord Vishnu, Lord Vishnu, Lord Vishnu, or the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Even Ayurveda Shastra recommends that while taking medicine, one should remember Lord Vishnu, because the medicine is not everything. The Supreme Lord is the real protector. The gopis also chanted the mantras to counteract evil witches, for they are the greatest enemies of children. The mantras also counteract evil spirits that are always ready to give trouble to the body and cause loss of memory, madness, and bad dreams. Such evil spirits can be vanquished, however, simply by uttering the holy name of Lord Vishnu, for upon hearing it, they become afraid and go away. Mother Yashoda picked up Krishna, gave him the nipple of her breast to suck, and then made him lie down on his bed. Meanwhile, the cowherd men, headed by Nand Maharaj, returned from Mathura, and when they saw Putna's gigantic dead body, they were extremely astonished. Nand Maharaj exclaimed, "My dear friends, you must know that Anak Anakdundubhi has become a great master of mystic power. Otherwise, how could he have foreseen that such a calamity would occur?" After hurrying home, Nand Maharaj took Krishna upon his lap and smelled his head with great satisfaction, relieved that he had been saved from such a great danger. This is the difference between a Kshatriya and a Vaishya. By studying the political situation, Vasudeva could see what would happen, whereas Nanda could only guess that Vasudeva was a great saintly person who had developed mystic powers. The residents of Vrindavan cut Putna's body into pieces with their axes. Then they used wood to burn the pieces to ashes. It is practiced that when a snake is killed, it is cut into pieces and burnt, for otherwise it may come back to life. Krishna had sucked Putna's breast, and so she had become freed of all material contamination. Because of this, as the body was burnt, it emanated a fragrance like a guru. Putna always hankered after the blood of human children, and with that desire she had approached Krishna. But because she offered her breast to the Lord, she attained the greatest achievement. What then can be said of those like Mother Yashoda who offer their breast out of love? Putna attained the position of nurse assistant of Mother Yashoda in the spiritual world because Krishna sucked her breast. What then can be said of the cows whose nipples Krishna sucked with great pleasure and who offered their milk very jubilantly just like mothers?